Have you ever felt like you're doing the thing and you just don't know where you're headed while doing the thing? Or have you ever felt like there's a shift or a change that might need to happen? There's this tug, a war, if you will, that's going on in your mind and your head and your body. And you're kind of like feeling stuck or uncertain. And you're afraid of what could be on the other side of that. Well, this episode is definitely for you. I am so excited to have our guest and my past client and my really good friend, Keosha Jones, on the show. She's a lifelong entrepreneur. She is a productivity coach for those who are living with ADHD or identify as having ADHD. And we're going to talk about how she got to that world. It didn't start as you might think, but it kind of did. And what I have loved about this conversation is that she really talks about confronting and leaning into your pace and finding ways to find more harmony and balance and how her view of being productive looks like in a more holistic standpoint. Also, she will talk about her journey as a business owner, how she went from being in one business to now being where she is now, and how working with me as her coach has helped her to find her pace and her love for what she does as a productivity coach. So I'm so excited for you to tap in and tune in, and you'll hear lots of gems along this way. Some productivity tips and some mindset shifts. Of course, it wouldn't be the show if we didn't have those. And you might see somewhere in here where you're having your own aha moment to deciding what you might need to do next to get to where you want to go. So stay tuned. Welcome to She's Crafted to Thrive, a globally ranked podcast for women living with chronic illness and creatives in business. I'm your host, Nikita Williams, chronic illness warrior and photographer turned digital marketer turned award-winning coach. I love helping chronic illness warriors and creatives to live with their chronic illness and creativity as their superpower in life and business. On the show, you will hear the very stories that helped our guests, my clients, and myself to define our dream way of making money with proven strategies and marketing and mindset, all to grow a business that thrives without sacrificing our health. So stay tuned because you'll find the inspiration and tools and the resources you need to craft a life and business that thrives. I am so excited to have Keosha Jones on the show. Welcome, my friend. How are you? What's going on? Please introduce yourself.
Thank you so much for having me. And this is an absolute pleasure. And as Nikita mentioned, my name is Keosha Jones, and I am a holistic productivity coach for women who have difficulty focusing, are unorganized with time and planning, and identify with or have ADHD. So that is my specialty, and I love every bit of it.
I love that. And I love how this is like an evolution, if you will, of where you started. And just to make it clear to the listeners, Keosha and I have known each other for a really long time, but didn't really get to know each other. So we started working together. And she's been a client. She's just not just like she's been a client, but she's like my sister. You're just one of my best friends. And it's been such a fascinating and fun what has it been 2.5 years almost now that we've really kind of like been in each other's sphere.
Something, maybe write it too, because I just had my business anniversary the end of May for 2 years.
Yeah. So what brought you to this journey of entrepreneurship in general? Like what brought you here?
So I've pretty much been an entrepreneur my whole life. Both of my parents have owned businesses at some point. So I think it just kind of runs through my blood, like dog walking businesses as a little girl. I did cleaning and ironing for people in college and high school because I didn't want to work for anybody.
Ironing?
Yes, girl. People hate to iron.
I hate it too. I don't iron jack.
And I don't iron anymore, but it was great because I could just pop in a movie and iron their clothes and make money. So, and I got to do it on my own time while I was in college. It was a pretty strenuous schedule. So trying to beat to somebody else's drum did not work well for me. So, but most recently, leading me to this point, I had another business that was around health coaching and MLM. And that gave me the confidence to step out and pursue this coaching business, which had been a dream for many, many years.
Yeah, I remember when you first came to one of my, I think it was like a challenge, the 5-day business. What did I call it back then? Girl, it's been so long. I think it was the 5-day business clarity challenge, or I don't know. I'm like, what was it, Nikita? I can't think. Okay. So full disclosure, Keosha and I both came to the podcast recording this morning and we're like, how are you? We're both feeling like a little out of our usual spark. So we're hopefully giving you some vibes today with our synergizing in some kind of way, but I will definitely have brain fogness happening today. So whatever that challenge was, you came to it. And I remember you're like, this was the aha moment that I needed to have. So what was that aha moment?
I was pursuing the wrong business.
I like that. I like that you shared that, but I also want people to know that maybe the business you're in isn't the business that you are going to end up being in for the long term. It just might be like a stepping stone into where you're going.
Yes. So it helped me pivot to realize, I don't see my life going the way that I want it to, building this the way it needs to be built for that to happen. And it helped me create the shift, even though it was a few months later that I actually made the pivot. Mm-hmm. The clarity was there, mm-hmm. that this is not what I want to spend the rest of my time building.
Right. Yeah. What was it that like sparked that clarity moment? Like, what was it that you felt like was like, oh, wait a minute.
It was the implementation of the workbook. And the reason why is because it started out with asking certain questions about what do you want your mission and values and all of those things to be. And I found that when I was doing that, everything that I was writing down was more towards the productivity coaching business instead of for the health coaching business. Mm. And that's what made me realize that was not the thing, because my mind was set on something else as I was going through those exercises.
Yeah, I think it's so interesting when we are, sometimes our brain is doing what it's supposed to do. It's like it's already there and we're still catching up with it. 9 times out of 10, that is when the shift happens to me, is like when the conscious and subconscious finally like line up, because they're both like working together versus like a part of you not working with what you're consciously aware of. So why productivity coaching? Like why, like, I mean, this is one thing you and I don't have too much in common. Like we always joke around because we have so much in common. Like even her middle name is Nikita. Like we have so much in common. But this thing, I mean, I consider myself a very organized, like I can organize. I feel like I do that, but I am not a Keosha. Like I am not a Keosha when it comes to organization and time. And that is not my thing. So why is this your thing? Like, why is this the thing? You're like, oh yeah, this is where I need to go.
Yeah. So before we get to that, let me just tell you, the one thing in my life that's always unorganized is my car. Let me just go ahead and throw that out there. I always
but is it really like,
yes, it really is. I always have to move stuff out of the passenger seat for somebody else to get in the car.
Okay. I guess that is a bit, yeah.
Every time. And, we'll talk about that a little later in the ADHD portion. There's always one segment in the car. That's mine.
Okay.
But what really got me into this was my volunteer ministry. And I mean, I always had to have a schedule because in high school, there was a lot of work to be done. I did college prep, so I was always doing tons of homework. I marched in band, had my, meetings for my worship and the ministry. And those things were not to be sacrificed, or band as an extracurricular activity would have to go away. So I learned how to schedule well then. But when it came down to my volunteer ministry and meeting those goals, I knew that it was important to make sure that I could build some flexibility into my schedule so that if I got sick, then I'd be able to put it back in somehow without feeling overwhelmed. So I was like, you know what? How can I help other people who want to pursue the same thing to not be so like weighed down by the hour requirement and just enjoy what they're doing? So I started helping them out doing that. And I was like, I wonder if one day I can make this into a business to help people, with their schedule so that they can get the things done that they want to. And that's how that was born.
That is really a good point. Like yeah, I think like you're saying that, I think the piece that I'm curious about is because I think a lot of us in certain areas of our life know that we need to be that kind of productive, right? Like even when you were talking about the ministry and the things you were doing, there are times where I'm really great at that. Like it's really a good, like I know, okay, this is my schedule. I look at my calendar, I put in the time, all of those different things. But you, Keo, should take it to a whole nother level of like life productivity. How has that been for you holistically, like in this journey of getting to where you are now? So much so that you're helping people with all of their life stuff and your life stuff. Like, this is like, to me, I think that's a skill that you kind of cultivate. And some of us have it and some of us have to work really hard to get there. How is that different for you?
So it's very different for me now than it was in the future. I mean, in the future, in the past. See, there you go.
We're here though. We're here. We're with you. We're with you.
I was very rigid at one point. And I think, some of that has to just do with my background, like in the home setting. And so that created this monster of like everything needed to be done such and such and so and so. And I didn't realize that I lived in a space of anxiety, especially when I didn't know how things were going to go, or if something changed, it would completely just throw me off. So through this process of, working on the life stuff too, it helped me to realize that it's okay to just leave some things alone and tomorrow is tomorrow. And through that process, it has allowed me to take care of myself more, which helps me to do the same thing with my clients, and really understanding that rest is a part of this productivity journey. If you want to live life and be present and not be thinking about everything in the past or what you need to do in the future.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, that last piece about being in the present is just, as coaches, most of us know, and we learned this, that most of us in general struggle with either being in the past or in the future, but not necessarily present. And how does productivity help you find that balance between, because we do, like, although we're in the present, we do have to plan for what's coming up. How do you find that kind of balance between, I don't like balance in the traditional setting of the words. I'm like all about the harmony and the sprinkling in and like using it to work with you. And I like that that's your approach too with productivity. Like, it doesn't have to be a rigid thing, because life isn't necessarily that rigid. Like, it's very different. Every second of the day can change and shift. And you're like, so when people think of productivity, I think they think they do think rigidly. They're like, well, it has to be this, it has to look like that. But what is your approach when it comes to sharing with people? Well, give yourself more grace around this. Planning is not like ink, like, I don't know, stitched into a piece of paper. Like, what is the flexibility that comes with productivity?
So one of the things that I teach my clients is to create more than one schedule. And one of them is to allow for when you need to have more flexibility and more rest, or if life happens. What are the major things that are going to help you move through your day and that are going to help you be accomplished? What's one thing in your business that you can do? What's one thing that you can do for yourself? And one small thing that you can do for someone else. Like, it can just be that simple and to be productive. I teach and coach around quality, and that requires being present as well. Like, think about how good you want to give something, even if it's 5 minutes. Say you gave it your best, pat yourself on the back, and go take a nap.
Yes, I love that. I love that so much. And I think that's just like a life goal. I like, everyone needs to attain to the point where they can give themselves that kind of flexibility and dealing with all of the things that we have to juggle, right? All of the things, especially Keosha and I don't have children, but we have other things that can kind of feel like responsibleness of children, like taking care of family and, taking care of our own health and our own spirituality, all those different things that kind of can be and look different on a different day. They're not always the same. And the other piece of it, I think the reason why I connect so much with what you do is because as a chronic illness warrior, and as you are as well, our lives, everyone deals with uncertainty. And I might just be a little bit partial to all the people who live with chronic illness, but I feel like we deal with uncertainty on a whole different level of uncertainty. And I know for you and your family deals with that too. Like, it's not just you, you have family that deals with chronic stuff too. And there's like, I always feel like there's this ticking time bomb on every minute of the day, because you don't know if, let's say, 5 minutes from now, I'll give you an example. Yesterday, I woke up feeling great. I was like, yeah, I have all the energy. And I did something. And then around 3:00-ish, I don't know, 3:03, I just felt like this body, like all of the just body energy just like left my whole body. It felt like it like fell out and dropped on the floor and I couldn't even pick it up. Like, that's what it felt like. And I have that every month or so. And lately it's been more intense. And so it's like you have these plans, and unless you're paying attention to your body, like I teach with you guys, like pay attention to where those ebbs and flows. You might be sitting there thinking, oh my gosh, what's happening to me and I have all these plans and I can't have anything. But now when I plan my work schedule in my life, like this week, it's a light week. It's a light week because I had a feeling that this was going to be the week. And it's just because of paying attention to that. But the uncertainty piece, if you aren't sure about that, like if you're living with chronic illness and you're dealing with these challenges, how does having a productivity coach or working with someone who understands that make the difference for you when you are having one of these, your body energies just dropped out of the sky?
So one of the benefits is having that outside perspective, because sometimes you can't see beyond what's directly in front of you. So what I would do is ask certain questions, like what's the highest priority? What's got a deadline? What can you delegate to someone else? And what can you just completely drop off? And because when you're in that state of, oh my goodness, a flare is happening, I don't know how it's going to how long it's going to last, because that is also anxiety triggering.
Yep, it is.
You've got someone who can help you come back to center and focus on just the important things, which one of them is taking care of yourself. And I have this thing that's called lean into your pace and give yourself grace. When you are feeling that way, that you're just not well and you can't do, it's okay to stay there until you are able to do more. And as a coach, then I can guide you through that and those feelings of I can't believe I didn't get this done, because that's real. And then, oh my goodness, I'm going to have so much to do when I get back. I can guide you through picking and choosing a slow ramp up instead of going full speed ahead, because all that's going to do is cause you to come right back into that same cycle again if you go too fast.
Yeah. And I think what you said, I love that, lean into your pace and give yourself grace. I think there's a lot to be said of that. And it's so hard. I have found, and I'm sure you have found this too, is that our unique people, like my people that I serve in my business, are super high achievers. They have huge expectations. They have huge expectations is the best way I can put it. Like they are very driven. They're very driven and determined because of feeling like that, because they are dealing with this uncertainty thing, that they have to sometimes overcompensate when things are happening when they aren't feeling well. So they like even stress themselves out even more, trying to do the thing, even though their body's like, we ain't doing that right now. Our brain is not working like that right now. Like, let's stop. So how have you found in your own journey? Because I know working with you, this is something you and I have worked on. Like we can not do that right now. How have you come to taking these things about productivity that you're learning specifically now in your niche with ADHD and inattentiveness? How have you taken the tools that you have started to learn in your own journey, in your own business, to give yourself that same practical lean into your pace, give yourself grace?
Girl, let me just tell you, it has been so freeing to apply this to myself. Like this week is a prime example. I ended up having more meetings than I planned on. This is an off week for the same reason that this is like a slower week for you, but I forgot to clear something off my schedule. So it is what it is. So I decided, well, what are the few things that I need to do to make sure that this week continues to move for me to serve my clients and to show up minimally on social media? Those were my two questions. And have I gotten any of that done? No. Do I care at this point? No. And the reason why is because I can still deliver without having some of the pieces of the puzzle put together the way I wanted them to. Just because I wanted to have nice and pretty slides to talk about executive function doesn't mean that I can't still do that without them and it still be effective.
Yeah.
So it's been great because, the last month or so of my life has been crazy.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of things that I want to do, but I'm like, it's okay to just be still. The people are going to come. I've just stopped worrying about that. They're going to come.
So let's talk about that for a second, because I was thinking about this when I was looking at, I asked my clients their wins and I'm like, it might be quiet, but quiet doesn't mean things aren't happening. Right. And I think we talked about this in the Line Clarity Way the other day about our results don't necessarily right in this moment define everything. Right. So what has happened when things are like going crazy and you don't get some things done that you think you have to get done? Like what has happened in the last 3 months in your business that is like, how in the heck, how in the heck, and I'm sorry you don't like the word heck, but I say that all the time. How in the world do you have crazy like landmines in your life and you look back at your business and you're like, how did this happen?
I've had the most growth in the last 3 months. And in the last like 6 weeks in particular, when all of this stuff started happening,
Mm-hmm.
I decided I was going to take some time off to focus on like the ministry and the memorial that was coming up. And then a couple of weeks after that, boom, the bottom just started to go everywhere. And that's when people started showing up, whether it was from a conversation that I'd had, a couple months before, and I just decided to send a text, make sure I followed up. And that resulted in a client. I had a client referred to me, another one we talked in, she's, signed on. Like it's just been, that's so, there's an exercise that I do, like workout, and the guy is like, there's power in stillness.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm realizing that when you sit still in your business and you take care of the things that are most important, that's when the things are going to happen for you, because you're giving the number one things the priority. You don't have to hustle and grind in the definition that the world, in most business culture has put it there. Like I did a live on this once. Hustle can either mean a grind to a pulp or to use energetic action, or to move about hurriedly.
Mm-hmm.
Grind can mean like to put down to a powder or to polish.
Mm-hmm.
So which one do you want it to be?
Yeah.
So you can use those words and apply it to energetic activity for when you have it. And then when you're sitting still or you're barely moving, you're polishing those things. You're making it shiny, bright, and it's attractive. And that's when they're going to start to come into your world. And that's what happened to me in ways that you never would have expected.
And I think what you said, especially about the hustle, like it's persistent. It's persistent when you have the capacity to persist. I think what happens is when we do have those times when we're, down and out, we believe that if we slow down or if we pause, that means we lose the momentum. But that's almost like disregarding the momentum you've already created up until this point. It's almost like saying, if you roll a ball down a hill, it needs, usually when it's going down a hill, it needs something to stop it. like it's still going. Like the initial push to roll down the hill takes the effort. And what you, in this situation, I think specifically, and I tell people all the time, especially all my clients, when I tell them when they first come with me, I'm like, you're going to feel weird slowing down. It's going to feel weird. You're going to fight me with every fiber not to slow down. And even for Keosha and I, who have been doing this for a while, Keosha has been doing this for a while. It's even being okay when you do slow down after, well, when I slow down, things are going to stop. They're just going to look different than maybe I expected them to look. It's still that inner side, like, oh my goodness. At the same time, there's a little bit of uneasiness that maybe things aren't going to happen the way you really want them to, but don't discredit. I think that's the biggest piece I want you to take from Keosha's story. It's like, don't discredit that the work you've done can serve you in the stillness. Like people think that working all the time is the thing that keeps you going, but you've built up all that energy and all that momentum to serve you for a reason. So take the time you need for yourself. Like take the time, because if you don't take care of you, you don't have a business. You don't have anything else.
Yeah. And I'm sorry. My thing is, I'm not having a business to live my business. I'm having my business to live my life.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Yeah, exactly. I say that I agree with you. And I say all the time, like, are you building a business to serve your life versus you serving your business? There's a big difference. Mm-hmm. There's a big difference. Are you a slave to your business, or is your business your like partner in this journey? Like there's a different feeling here. So why the ADHD lane? Like, why did we pivot into this lane, Keosha? Like, why did we decide that this is where you wanted to go?
So I have a background in physical therapy, and I've not done it in 2 years, but I like to keep my license active in case I need to go back for some reason. And I was thinking, I was taking a psychology class, and I looked at the list and I was like, you know what, this might just help me in understanding more about how the brain works and what maybe it can do for my coaching business.
Mm-hmm.
I took that course and I'm like, why is this my life? I was like, why is this my life? And some other people that I know. And I'm like, this makes so much sense. Like it opened up my world in a lot of things that I personally struggled with from, childhood, youth up into adulthood. And even now at almost 37 years old, like it made sense. And then I started to think about the individuals that I had worked with. And I can't diagnose anybody,
Right.
but I can say, this looks familiar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I'm like, oh my stars, that makes sense too. And it's been interesting because I've helped my clients are learning how to advocate for themselves because they see it.
Yeah.
And at least one of them has gotten an official diagnosis of something that she struggled with her whole life. So it just blew my mind. And I was like, yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, it's so interesting how that works. Like, I feel like our brains, you and I both are on this like psychology trek, it feels like, and it's something I'm studying positive psychology, which is still psychology and it's not toxic positivity. People will go into that in a whole nother podcast, but it is the science of learning how our brain can work in connection with having more positive experiences psychologically and what that does mean and what that doesn't mean. And when I started studying it, I was like, I already say that. I already think that. And it's like, oh, whoa, no, that's deeper. And it's like, you start seeing that even in your clients, you're like, oh, this is why they are drawn to this because of these different things. And how has that affected your coaching style when it comes to productivity for someone who is dealing with ADHD, who's living with it, who may have it or may not have it, or feel like they have some of those characteristics? How has being a productivity coach in this container helped your clients? Like, how has it helped you to help your clients?
Oh man, it has helped me help them by first of all, having them acknowledge that there's nothing wrong with them. That's the biggest thing that is a challenge, is that they've struggled their whole lives in certain areas and they've thought that they were deficient. Now, granted, ADHD is a, deficit-based disorder, but at the same time, there are so many other strengths that they have used to navigate through life that they've probably never given themselves credit for.
Yeah.
And so helping them to see that and to, maybe see even those in their lives that didn't know what it was, how they helped them. They had a support system. And then leaning into how their brain actually works. Because a lot of times I find, even with myself and my clients, is that they try to fight against the natural inclination of their brain.
Yeah.
But there's a way to hack that, use it to come full circle to work for you. So it's this thing of trying to force yourself into a mold of what is called the neurotypical brain, or the person who doesn't have ADHD. That has to go away. And that's what I help my clients do, is to access how their brain works. And I'm actually taking a class now on the 11 executive functions that is in our brain, and that there are 3 major ones. When you work on those 3, all of the other ones synergistically start to improve. So getting deeper into that is really going to let them see, based on their learning style, how can they hack into that system and just take off with their productivity, and also realize that they don't have to, like with, people with, like, who you serve with chronic illnesses and like myself, that you have to prove that you are the same as everyone else. You're not. And it's okay.
Yeah. Yeah. While you were saying that, I was just thinking how powerful it is to help someone feel empowered to make choices in their life that serve them to manifest the things that they want to, without feeling like they are broken in some kind of way, or like they've like been crazy. Like, I have someone very close to me who just understanding, oh, this isn't necessarily that I'm stupid or that I don't know. It's just that my brain works differently. That is a shift. Like, it's amazing. It's also, I feel like it's the shift that I had too with my chronic illness, when I realized, oh, this is challenging. Yes. Like, this is challenging, but having this has helped me in so many different other ways of my life, that this is actually a gift in disguise if I look at it that way. And I think that's what you're saying, that when you have a label or when you understand how your brain works, you can then use it like a sword to wield it in a way that serves you so that you're not beating yourself up with the sword. Like, we like beat ourselves up, and knowing how it works and knowing how to tap into the strengths and turn those weaknesses even into strengths is empowering you to do that. And why do you think doing it with someone else? Like, I always like to talk about coaches, because I honestly, at this point of being a coach, feel like every single person on the planet needs a coach. I'm just saying. It's like having a guide that is unobstructed, in a sense of not coddling you, but helping you stay aware to focus on your vision, like where you're going. So how does working with a coach on productivity while having ADHD help that person get to that result quicker of feeling more empowered, feeling like they know how to navigate this world in this space?
You said one word: aware. And self-awareness is one of the executive functions that is impacted with somebody who has ADHD. They cannot, it's like looking at a fogged up mirror. They see themselves, but it's not clear. And so having a coach can help you bring that awareness and start wiping the fog off the mirror so that you can see yourself clearly and what patterns and habits that you have that are, I'm trying to find the right word, but it is what it is, negatively impacting your productivity. What actions, what thoughts, what beliefs that you have are the ones that are just adding more steam to the mirror. I can help them like break that down and then figure out, who do you want to be on the other side of that so that it's completely clear. Are there going to be setbacks? Absolutely. Yeah. But that's where having a coach comes in, because one of the other biggest challenges is that an all or nothing attitude exists. So once you stop, that's it. I'm just going to lay here, or I have to pick up all the things, but you don't. So a coach can guide you through leaving that all or nothing attitude and it being a little bit of something so that you can rebuild things.
I love that illustration about the fog on the mirror. It's kind of like mine with the camera lens and the and the filter. How has having a coach for you? Because we've been working together for 2 years, I guess we said at the beginning. How has this helped you in your journey as a business owner, as growing, as like full circle to where you are now?
Oh, wow. So it's helped a lot in the self-awareness department, things that I didn't know that I was thinking about myself, because what I thought about myself in personal situations overlapped into my business. I just went through that again. And so, having you as a coach, and, we've also, both of us have had Renee as a coach too, having that outside perspective of somebody else to be like, y'all can't see my face on here. I just realized that I'm like, I'm not gonna be able to see my face. But to be like, yeah, I don't know about that thought process, like in a loving kind, but you need to think about that, do, some journaling, tapping, whatever, and get to the bottom of understanding who you are and why you feel that way. And when you come to have a coach that also understands you and the life you live, that only makes that transformation happen even faster. And like I think I mentioned before, it's imperative to find a coach that matches the pace that you can go at or that you want to be at. When I was making this decision to hire my first coach, because I knew that there was no way I'd be able to start and build my business the way I wanted it to be without help, because I didn't know what I was doing at all. But I had to make a decision between one coach and you. And I said, she way too fast for me over here. She gonna be wanting me to do stuff at a pace I don't want to. And because of the pace that you taught at, even your energy of just being calm and steady, I'm like, that's who I want to work with, because that's the pace that I want to go at, even though, I still kind of try to go too fast sometimes. But you're like, pull it back, Keosha, slow the motorcycle down. I'm in the sidecar. Don't tip me over.
I'm in the sidecar, but I'm like detached almost, and being like, wait, don't leave. Where are you going? Oh, goodness. No, I think what you said is key. I think having someone in your corner who knows your pace, understands your pace, respects your pace. I've had so many discovery calls with people who have worked with coaches. And this is why I want you all to understand that when people are niching, like when Keosha says she's niching to serve people in ADHD and you have it, you might want to look at working with Keosha because she might understand things. Not only does she understand it from a scientific, like educational place, she lives with it. So like it is a difference between going with a coach who has no clue. They can be, quote unquote, as you know, is so popular right now, aware, but someone who is living with it, right? Someone who has lived through it, who's going through it and has the tools to know how to wield that sword around, right? That's the people you want to find. Like when you are growing your business in any capacity, you want to build a team that supports your pace, that's ahead of you just a bit, right? So they obviously know where you're going and where you things you want to like watch out for because they've experienced it. And that's powerful to have in a business. Doing it by yourself, you don't know what is going on. Like you just don't have a clue. You're going, you're doing, you're taking all of the advice from all of the different people, but no, 9 times out of 10, when we get clients, right, Keosha, they're coming to us finally because they're like, I've tried it all these different kind of ways, but I've never tried it with someone who gets me, has been there, and is a bit ahead of me.
Yeah, I do say that that is definitely the case. And when it comes down to that, too, you want to think about how relatable is this person? And will they tell me I'm consuming too much? That's
Mm-hmm.
another thing that I've learned with my clients is they like to consume, they like to learn, but they're going to all these different places sometimes. And I'm just like, I mean, I had to tell one not too long ago. I said, have you thought about how much you have consumed lately? Do you think that this is contributing to the fact that you are stuck in analysis paralysis because you've overloaded your brain with too much information?
Mm-hmm.
And so a coach can help you, can see the spiral happening that you
Yeah.
may not and bring you back into the lane of, okay, now let's find some things to take action.
Yeah. Coaches help you take aligned, impactful, progressive action, right? When you're doing it by yourself, you can get stuck in doing some of the same actions you've always taken and not move a single step forward. It's like being on a treadmill and you ain't going nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
So having a coach in different areas of your life, AKA productivity, AKA business coaching, mindset coaching, health coaching is really helpful if you're really focused on that piece. And when you work on, like, I feel like when clients, I've had people who work with Keosha come to me who is like having like a VIP day. They have the tools to take what I teach them and as such, it's like night and day. It's like when my clients have therapists, I love it. I'm like, please say you have a therapist. I love you if you do, because you are learning how to process these emotions and feelings also outside of me and with me to take the action. It's the same thing if you're working with Keosha. If you are working with a health team that's supporting you around this, I'm sure it's much more helpful because you also are becoming more aware of the things that help you, what might not help you. And Keosha can be like, okay, let's take these little steps towards where you want to go. That's why. So I did not mean this to turn into why you need a coach, but this is why you need a coach. Oh my goodness. So tell us something fun and exciting that you're looking forward to in your business and how can we connect with you?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So there are a couple fun things that are happening. As you know, there are some shifts getting ready to take place
So excited.
with the way that I do deliver my coaching, especially now that I am working through the ADHD coaching certifications. So I'm really like leaning towards it being a more one-on-one based model with implementation sessions so that you can come in and work on the homework assignments with accountability instead of trying to do it at a time outside of that, because that's challenging. So why would I want to make it more challenging for you?
Right.
But there's another piece that a lot of people don't know about, but I've been working on getting that set up is I haven't come up with a name yet. This is what I'm thinking. It's called Supporting Transformations, one implementation session at a time. And this is going to be directed more towards psychologists, but if you are in therapy, what you can do is come in and have a Zoom session and you literally just sit there and you work on whatever it is. It creates a safe space so that you can do the work. And I just help by supporting and being there, asking a question to make sure of what you're doing. And then you do it for 20, 30 minutes, and then you go on your way so that you can take whatever it is that you're working on with a psychologist or even a coach and do the work with an
Yeah.
accountability session.
That's going to be interesting and fun. I think it's going to be a nice partnership. Like that's going to be great, especially working with people who are working with that support outside of that. That's going to be awesome. That sounds fun. Yeah. So where can all of these lovely people find you online?
Okay. So you can find me online at IG at Pink Pro Co, on Facebook, Keosha's Pink Productivity Coaching. And my website is pinkproco.com.
Sweet. I'll have all of that in the show notes, but thank you for being here.
Yes, thank you for having me. It was great.
All right, y'all, that's a wrap. Thank you for listening, and I hope this conversation inspired you. Be sure to visit the website at craftedtothrive.com to check out the show notes and grab all the goodies that I or the guests mentioned in the show. Join us for our next one. In the meantime, remember you are crafted to thrive.